Now we have our next session called Opportunities for Entrepreneurs in 2023 and Beyond. Please welcome Navneet Chugh. He is the managing partner at Chugh LLP. So please come. Yeah. John Keisler, he is the CEO of Sunstone Management. Vishal Lakhina, Managing Director at Accenture. And Vandana Mangal, Professor and Director at Loyola Marymount University.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're not joining the panel?
No, I'm good here.
Oh, you're good. Okay. How's everyone doing? TiE Southern California is about to become the #1 TiE chapter in the world by the end of next year. All the tech stocks are down 50%, which means TiE Silicon Valley is down 50%. Right? It's so much pleasure to bring another TiE chapter down. It's just amazing. Fine, we're one family, but you know how we feel about our cousins and brothers and sisters, right? So I lost a bet to 2 people in the last 1 week. And both cases, the prize that I lost, or if I lost the bet, I had to give them something, right? So I promised them that they would be the guest panelist on today's event. So please help me welcome Gunjan Bagla, the first winner. This is why we're better than Silicon Valley. Those guys plan their events 2 years in advance, and I was just told this morning I'm doing this, so. Sure, Alan. Thank you. How's your real estate business? Good? You're a billionaire. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be.
He's giving back.
Oh, giving back. Are you a charter member, sir? Are you a charter member?
Yes,
Okay, good. So we at least got 1,500 out of him, right? How about the next person I lost a bet to? Oh my God. He is Division Chief, Associate's Chair in Liver and Intestinal Research, Professor of Pediatrics, Clinical Scholar, Keck School of Medicine. He's a MBBS, MS, FAASLD. And he's doing a lot of research and is going to tell us how do we make money from our colon. Well, you know, the colon cancer is up like crazy in this country, right? So we got to make money off of that, right? Okay. So you guys have microphones? Okay. So John, oh, we finally have one white guy on the panel. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining. Thank you, thank you. You know that's why you were invited, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to be clear. I'll probably get flack tomorrow, but that's okay. So rather than introduce you, I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us about your life from the day you were born till this morning. Go ahead, John.
For sure. No, I think we would all just like to continue to watch the stand-up comedy because it's fantastic. You're an amazing MC. But yeah, my name is John Keisler. I'm the CEO of Sunstone Management, but I actually spent the last 20 years as a public servant. I was the Economic Development Director for the City of Long Beach just before I took on this new role with my partners. Sunstone Management is actually a small venture capital firm down in Irvine. We really are excited about early stage VC, so we absolutely love TiE SoCal and the partnership that we've been able to start forming to bring more mentors and coaches and resources and expertise to our portfolio companies. So I have a wife and two children just over the border in Long Beach, and I'm just really, really grateful for everything that you're doing. So thanks for having me.
Is your wife as good looking as you?
far better looking because she's from New York.
Next time, can you bring her, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Vikas.
Yeah, I'll bring my wife next time for sure too. And she's good looking, by the way. Hi everyone, I'm Vishal. I'm part of Accenture. Within Accenture, I'm a managing director working with customers specifically in the comms, media, and high-tech space. So I look at a portfolio of accounts, specifically working with them around consulting and technology opportunities. And I'm here to share my experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishal. Vandana.
So I'll bring my husband next time. Okay. Is that okay?
Your husband talks too much. Leave him at home.
Done. So I'm a professor at Loyola Marymount University. I'm in the business school there, coming from UCLA, where I would self-describe myself as glasses and briefcase. My role has always included academia as well as the business side. Continue to do that at Loyola Marymount University, wearing 3 hats now with the glasses and the briefcase. One is I teach my MBAs and MS students technology. The second is I'm the faculty director of our MS in Business Analytics program. And then the third is outreach to the community. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vandana.
So my wife is so much better looking than me that all of you should go and watch a movie called Four Samosas. It's coming out here at Cerritos 16 on December 3rd. And she was also the president of TiEcon some years ago. I was first in this room in October 1997, the second TiEcon meeting. I missed the first one because my daughter was born that day, so I had a good excuse. I help American companies to do business in India, and there's a lot of interesting angles on entrepreneurship that we can talk about relating to that. But I am so thrilled to be here because in 26 years of being at TiE, I think today I don't know at least 80% of people in the room, which means that Ashish and Anshuman before him have done a tremendous job of extending the footprint of TiE. And that's just awesome. You can thank me later, Anshuman.
His name is Gunjan Bagla, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr.
They
Kohli.
said don't talk about yourself in the previous session.
Dr. Kohli, what is FAASLD?
So that's Fellow of the American Association for Study of Liver Diseases. So I'm better known as Bayal's husband in the Cerritos community. And she's coming, she's not here yet. But thank you for having me on this panel. I think I can contribute a little bit in the sense that I've always had, you've had multiple hats, I've always had my legs in different places. And one of the things that I wish to contribute to TiE is entrepreneurship on the medical biotechnology research side. So I'm the Associate Director for Research at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. And one of the things we would love to do is engage more of our community in research enterprises, hopefully across all the way to India.
So how many people in this room are going to die of colon cancer?
I hope nobody. If the research continues and we screen appropriately, we can catch it early. My personal research is more on the liver side, but I have friends who are very facile at colon cancer detection and prevention, so let me know if anybody needs help with colonoscopies.
Great. So Vandana, we start with you. Some young guy comes up to you today and says that I want to make a lot of money, or I want to make a lot of difference in this world. What business should I start in 2023? What's your answer?
Short or long?
Short, medium, and long.
Okay. Starting with the short one, I would say, since I am a professor in the business school, this is the route I'm going to go with. First, figure out what's the business problem. Don't just go with technology. Don't go with what is the most cutting-edge emerging technology and go with that. Rather say, what's the business problem? Then get into design thinking. Start figuring out who's your customer. Does that customer really have a need? And then you go with the next shiny object on the table, which is what's the latest technology I can use, whether it's AI, whether it's virtual reality, whether you decide to go the IoT route. I personally would go with cloud and then data and AI. But those are the spaces from which I come, and I think those are areas that are continuing to grow. I worked in AI when I was doing my PhD that long ago, and I used Lisp and really just literally keyed in the Q&As, questions and answers. But today, of course, we all know machine learning has gone crazy. We just throw data at it and it analyzes it for us. So whichever technology route you decide to go with, first figure out what's the business problem.
Thank you so much, Vandana. So one of the rules I've always had in life is anytime I get to do a panel, I send all the panelists a list of questions, and because they want to know what you're going to ask them and they want to have a call. So we get on a call, we go over questions, we plan, we prepare. And then when I leave home, I leave the sheet of questions at home, and not going to ask them the questions they thought I'm going to ask them. Why are you on this panel, right? Why do you need preparation? Is that okay? All right. Vishal, you work at Accenture. Are you the #1 consulting company in the world now?
By far. I think I'll ask everybody a question, right? It's like I'm sure everybody of you has heard Accenture's name. Does anyone guess, and I just asked John this question a few minutes ago, right? It's like, how many employees work at Accenture today? It's 711,000. That was the last quarter, right? So it's like by far, I think one of the largest consulting companies in the world, yeah.
Yeah, it's 711,000 because of the 7-Eleven, and most of the employees are in India. So how many in India?
I think in India, I believe there are around 200 to 300,000 people that work out of India.
So more people in India than any other country in the planet?
By far, yes.
All right, so Accenture is an Indian company, right? So Vishal, you work in CMT. What does that mean?
That means basically customers in the communications, media, and high-tech space. Those are the folks I work with.
Okay, so nobody's listening, nothing's getting recorded. Tell us the secrets. What are you telling your rich clients how to make more money next year?
So it's like if I knew the answer, I would be keeping it to myself, right? But I think to your earlier, I'll answer it slightly differently, right? In terms of the opportunities that we see, I think the biggest opportunity that we see is probably in the semiconductor space, right? If you guys have been following the semiconductor space closely, the Biden administration came back and said they're going to invest around $50 billion in the US market, right? And then around, I would say a month ago, they basically killed the entire semiconductor industry in China. They said no US semiconductor equipment manufacturer or a device can be shipped to China. They pulled all people back into the US overnight. So that's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. If you look at it, I guess over the next 12 to 18 months, over $100 billion will be invested in the United States, right? Just to build semiconductors and the supply chain around it, right? So that's, like, when I look at my own business and what we are trying to do, that's, right? It's not necessarily answering your question, it's like, but I think that's one big chunk of spaces where we see investment happening and transformation happening. It'll disrupt supply chains for semiconductors across the globe, right? So it's a mega trend. It'll happen in front of our eyes in the next 12, 18, 24 months. So I think that's one piece I would say. Yeah.
Wonderful. I interviewed a guy, he worked at Accenture in India, and I interviewed him for our India offices, and I said, what do you do sitting in Bangalore working at Accenture? I thought he must be doing some heavy-duty, complex stuff. And he says, I'm head of the accounts payable division for Google in Bangalore. So Accenture in Bangalore pays Google's bills.
Yeah, very true, yeah.
And I'm like, why? Google can't pay its bills? Like, we can't trust Google now? And he says, no, we tell Google, let us pay your bills, we'll do it for free. Whatever money we save you, you can pay us a part of that. And Google, all these big companies forget to take the discounts, the 2% early payment discount and this and that. And so he says we have a huge process on how these bills get paid. And I said, but you can't write Google's checks, right? So he says, no, it's all figured out. We send stuff to Google and the invoices get cut out, the checks get cut out. It's amazing what we think about the 711,000 people. But these big companies, whatever the opportunity is, whatever the customer wants, they do. So Gunjan, this young kid that wants to make a lot of money next year, he had a dream with God, and God told him that money is to be made in biotech. Since you are a biotech expert, what's your answer to this kid?
So biotech is going to change the world much more than any other sector in the next 10, 20 years. As I said, I work with India. Most people in America, this room is an exception, don't know that the largest producer of vaccines in the world is an Indian company. Most people don't know, most Indians don't know that the second largest producer of vaccines in the world is also an Indian company. Most biotech people in this country don't know that India produced more original vaccines for COVID than any other country in the world. So Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, they're small pie compared to what is happening in India. I'm working in the area of collaboration between the US and India in biotech. We are going to see something far bigger than what happened in software and IT over the next 20 years. So, for some of us, it might be too late. You're stuck in the software business, but maybe your kids can look at biotech. So I'm very lucky. My daughter studied biology at UC Santa Barbara, and I keep telling her she's going to do great stuff. But I also wanted to put in a comment.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you don't know what biotech is, and be honest. 1, 2. Slowly, as more people raise hands, more hands will go up. Gaurav, you know what biotech is? Okay, but you're not going to raise your hand. He's a textile multimillionaire and only knows clothes, so I figured he doesn't know biotech. Okay, so most people don't have a very good idea what's biotech. So let's start with what's biotech.
So really anything that has to do with living organisms, anything that has to do with what's inside your cell, primarily DNA. But really it's about biology interacting with the world. It can be about health, okay, but it can also be bio-industrial. They're developing organisms that can deal with pollution. They're developing organisms that can help produce protein from the ocean. We're going to run out of land and fertile land as the population grows. Our grandkids are going to be eating food from the ocean. Okay? People have developed today cell technology that they can produce milk without cows. And it's the same milk that you could drink. Right? These are the technologies that we are going to see.
How is it different than pharma?
How is it different than pharma?
The pharma industry.
So pharma is chemical based. Okay? So pharma uses chemistry, whereas biotech uses biology, basically. So those of us who are engineers and computer techies, we probably, if we grew up in India, we gave up biology in 8th grade, right? So that's why we don't know much about it. But really, that's going to be the future. But I did want to make an unrelated comment. I'm a disruptive guy. So we're talking about semiconductors. You know a guy named Sanjay Malhotra? Okay, Sanjay is the CEO of Micron Technology. And he just committed to invest $100 billion in the state of New York. He's an Indian guy, but he's investing, in New York, and they're going to transform the face of the semiconductor industry. Yeah, exactly.
So John, you're CEO, managing partner of Sunstone. You invest in early stage companies. From what I recall, you've invested in 55 companies so far. Can you give us an idea of what these 55 companies are in the space? What kind of companies are you looking to invest in the near future? And what's going on in the market generally? And what would be your advice for 2023 entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's great. So it's interesting. All of the expertise in this room is well aware of both the opportunities and challenges when you're investing in very early stage entrepreneurs. And so I think going back to the question about when you have a young person who's setting off to make their fortune and change the world, it really starts with who they are. As a person and what really drives them. And so I would say that the answer to the question first and foremost for us, even as investor, is for them to look within and to see within that person what drives them, what is it that they want to leave behind when it's all said and done. And so understanding their motivation, understanding their origin story, how they got into the specific sector or the specific venture that they're engaged in, and then to see the challenges that they've overcome to get this point is actually the qualitative assessment that we do. And I think even in this networking event that we had prior to this panel, it's really understanding the person. So having said that, we don't have a lot of data we don't have revenue, we don't have a lot of precedent to really look at and quantify the entrepreneur at this early stage. And so we really need to understand qualitatively who they are and what kinds of potential they have and the passion they have for their particular business. Secondly, though, I think what we try to look for at Sunstone Management, we talk about founder focus, the people first. But the second part of it is that they're looking to modernize a relevant market or a market that has opportunity, that it's big, but that it has opportunity for improvement. And I think Accenture does this very, very well, of course. And that's one of the reasons they have 700,000 employees and the biggest management consulting firm in the world is that there's so much opportunity now to improve upon existing industries. So we don't talk about disruption. We talk about the opportunity to apply either existing solutions across sectors or technology to modernize an existing marketplace. Because, at the early stage, again, we know that it's going to be a long journey, and ultimately it's likely going to require a lot of support from us, as well as the networked partners that we have in the Sunstone community to bring this entrepreneur forward. So the last thing I'll say is sustainability. So we talk about environmental, social, and governance a lot, but those are actually really good business indicators because we don't want to invest in a dying market. We don't want to invest in a solution that is likely a business or an industry of the past. And so when we talk about sustainability, environmental, it shouldn't be something that is leading to further destruction of the environment because it's probably not a good or vital business. Social, meaning it shouldn't be harming communities, it shouldn't be harming people because likely there's not a lot of growth opportunity there from a financial perspective. And then in terms of governance, the one thing, and I was just going to finish here, is that I would challenge that young person to look at society and where it's moving, where large governments are moving in terms of their policy agenda, whether it's microchips or energy, whether it's healthcare or biotech. The United States federal government is the largest venture capital investor in the history of the world. And on an annual basis, the federal government is putting trillions of dollars into the policy areas and the industries that they want to see move. So when I get to that G, we should all be paying very, very close attention to where the world's governments are moving because that's where the most capital is being invested on an annual basis is actually government. And we tend to see business and government try to do things separately, which is a huge fallacy. It's not only inefficient, but it's a missed opportunity. So when it comes to governance, I'll repeat this later, but we really challenge young people also to get involved and think in terms of how they can solve the problems that the communities and society and the governance is talking about because there's a lot of opportunity for investment there.
What is Sunstone investment size generally?
Yeah, so our checks are usually 100 to 200 in that first SAFE agreement. We, as a condition of investment, then require our startups to go through an accelerator program through partners. And then after completion of that process, we talk about follow-on. Our goal, though, is really to prepare them for a true seed round. Our investors are coming in oftentimes, they're coming in with smaller amounts in the funds that we're deploying. And we want, within 3 to 5 years, to get these young entrepreneurs to a true seed round. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity to go from a $250,000 check to a $2.5 million check in a matter of 3 to 5 years. And if we can do that in volume, meaning right now we're at almost 65, we want to get to 350 by the end of year 3. If you do that in volume, that kind of 10 times improvement over a 3-year period is really, really profitable. So that's what we're looking to do. And if there's any seed round investors in here, come talk to me, because I want you to introduce you to my companies.
And what percentage of the company does this poor kid have to give you for 100,000?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we really believe in.
That's a question he's not going to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really standard.
Half?
No, 4 to 6%. So Jasmine is here, our investment director, and ultimately we also believe in what I was talking about, sustainability, social, and governance, is that you do not want to damage from the outset the founder that you want to see succeed. So you do not want to make them unattractive to those seed round investors by taking too much equity. And we do something else that's really creative, is that we have a lending partner. So we want to provide probably the first access to debt so that it's non-dilutive. And we'd like to couple that 100,000 with another 100,000 in a loan so that they don't have to give up too much of their ownership.
Yeah, great, John. I just want to warn you, if you deal with Indian entrepreneurs, they're going to want a discount. So ask for more to begin with, and then be ready for 3-4 rounds. Is that fair, Shankar, since you head the Thai Angel Fund? So Rohit, all this research you're doing, how can this kid monetize it? How do we make money off of it?
I think when I listen to everybody on this panel and meet people at Thai events, the biggest thing that I feel that we as individuals who have some form of established background can do is collaborate. So to the kid who wants to launch a new career, I would say, what is your niche? And then find a partner that you can co-invent with. So co-invention, whether it is through biotechnology, so you have technology, whether it's AI or something else, and you have say, interest in genetics. There's a booth here that they're looking to solve a problem of a genetic disease today, right? But they may need partners in AI who can map that out for them. And the second thing I would say is devices. Similarly, if you have a colon cancer patient who needs a stent placed, who's going to make that stent? It's an engineer. So co-invention, take your niche, find your partner, and move forward. That's what I would say.
Wonderful. So while I ask them questions, be ready to ask your questions. Let's make it interactive. Don't be shy. We have an excellent panel. Let's pick their brains. Today is for free. Tomorrow, John's going to want half of the company. So I know I have a list of 3 people that want to ask questions. And by the way, they don't know about this yet. Pankaj Kumar and Vishal and Sanjeev. So Pankaj, you started your company when you were a kid, and you started the company and it failed miserably, and you declared bankruptcy, and then you started another company and hung in there for 20 years and made a lot of money and sold it to Hitachi. Do you have fire in your belly left for another startup?
Yes.
Do you have a question of any of these panelists? Rohit?
I would disagree. I don't think that mental health is different in terms of what we need to approach it with. Today, when COVID happened, for 2 years, there was a lot of turmoil in all of our systems. And who are the people who we reached out to? Our psychologists, our psychiatrists, our mental health professionals. And they pivoted instantaneously to modules, to media, which was based on telemedicine. Right? It existed before, but it spiked like crazy. I'm not in mental health, right? I'm in gastroenterology. But we moved our platform overnight. We didn't have telemedicine to the extent that we have today, but within 2 weeks, we moved from 20% to 80% of our visits were happening over telemedicine. And psychology today, if you talk to a psychologist, you talk to a mental health professional, they're more than happy to take this on and leverage within the rules of the game as much as possible using telemedicine. So I would disagree. I would say that mental health today is very different. There are so many platforms available. It needs to be regulated. It's a changing marketplace, but it is very facile. It will change overnight if you need it to change for whatever reason.
Gunjan.
Yeah, so I think perhaps you're alluding to the fact that while physical health is something people are comfortable talking about, mental health has always been a taboo in most cultures, and particularly, in the culture coming out of Asian countries such as India. So today's young people are much more comfortable talking about, a foot injury like I have right now versus, something that's going on in their heads. New startups are addressing that. Okay, there are a number of startups and early stage companies that are built around short sessions over video and smartphone that are offering therapy, starting with young people because they embrace new ideas much more than people in their 40s and 50s. But I think it's going to spread very rapidly to people, in all age groups because it's so much easier to get access. That barrier that you face, and I'm not shy to admit that I've sought, therapy, and you go into that room and you say, will I meet someone whom I know? And maybe I shouldn't be, can there be a private room where I'm sitting? You feel like you're going there for sexually transmitted disease or something, When this can be offered online, it is, it's much more comfortable to a much larger group. And perhaps that's what you were referring to, Pankaj.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the partnership model. So what we did in the city of Long Beach when I was the economic development director is we were struggling with this public policy issue. How do we attract great entrepreneurs, or how do we find great entrepreneurs within our community? And we couldn't do it on our own as a government agency. So we partnered. We said, where are the pools of talent? So first and foremost, there's 550,000 students currently in the publicly funded CSU system. It's one of the best higher learning systems in the world. It's bringing talent from all over the world. And there's another 250,000 in the UC system. So that's 750,000 potential entrepreneurs. So then how do we find the 1% maybe among those 750,000 per year, so 7,500? And then from that 1%, how do we whittle that down to maybe the 750 and so forth? And so what we decided to do is we followed the numbers, followed the data, where's the talent coming from? And then let's invest in the facilitators or the incubation programs, the pitch competitions, the ways to surface those hungry, persistent, hardworking, creative entrepreneurs. So we made about $250,000 investment so far, charitable giving through the Sunstone Community Fund into the CSU startup launch. And it's now 23 schools across the CSU system. They'll be at San Jose State for the big pitch competition sponsored by Sunstone. Now that's going to cost us $200,000 a year, 5 tracks, $40,000 per track. But now we have access to a great system of sourcing talent. From there, because they're young entrepreneurs, we don't take an equity position when they're that young. But within about 18 months after graduation, how can we move them then into the next level to take that, say, 750 great entrepreneurs down to like 75? So we invented, or we created the Long Beach Accelerator. We incorporated a nonprofit organization, government, venture capital, public education. We built a board of serial entrepreneurs from the community, and I'm happy to say that Sunstone Management has now taken an equity position in 40 of those Long Beach-based companies, and probably 10 more by the end of the month. So again, partnering through kind of crowdsourcing this intelligence, accessing networks of people and opportunities that we could not do in our limited networks, and using data. I mean, ultimately, when the Long Beach Accelerator recruits, they'll generally get 100 to 120 applications from around the world, and they'll winnow that down through their admissions process. A bunch of really smart people who have life experience that, whether it's gut or whether it's mind, intelligence, they're able to then recommend the top 8 to 10 to us. And it's only then, at the end of the process, that we're able to see some of the best and brightest that have been filtered through all of those layers of intelligence and sort of crowdsourced insight. So I'll give you that just as one example. We can talk more because I am working with a guy who does have a great methodology. He's pulling a lot more hard data out of publicly available sources like PitchBook, and then he's regressing it against really, really kind of high hit rate GP activity in different regions where you can actually buy cheaper equity because of the marketplace, but still have super high quality returns because you're getting the cross or the intersection of great GPs. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but we're looking for a lot more in terms of partnership to broaden our reach.
Thank you.
If that's for me. Yeah, I think if the audience, ultimately, if the audience that we want to expose them to, we call them founders, funders, and friends. So we do a series of different efforts. The founders, of course, the founder communities, because this question about identifying the right co-founders. I'm in retail, but I need somebody in computer science. I need somebody in marketing or engineering. We create community. So that's number one, is you focus on building communities. And if you look at Sunstone's kind of mission, investment, entrepreneurship, and community, you asked me specifically about, the investment. What is the cost of capital? Secondly, you asked me about how you source great entrepreneurs and then support them. And that's the model, the partnership model that I mentioned. And now you're talking about marketing and communication, connecting people across founders, funders, and friends. Number one, it's knowing who you're trying to reach and building a community around those champions. Obviously, this is a funder community, but there's many founders in this community as well. And so we try to build communities around those different groups, and we try to build the communications and the learning process so that they actually learn more from each other than from us. Because if we're sitting in a room where I'm talking to you, this is me pushing information out, but if you're just a few minutes ago, you were all talking to each other, when you were networking, that's our strategy. We want to be able to bring groups of people together to get to know each other, and then they share and source data, which is far more powerful and has far greater reach than anything we could do. So community building is actually the answer. No, we don't. And that's something also where we just hired a new founder development manager, and it actually is the number one thing that the founders want. So starting with our little group of 55, Zen, his job is really to get to know them well. They have sourced beyond capital, of course. The next thing is that platform that will, in a simpler way, connect them with the very specific subject matter experts or the specific resources they need. And that could range from insurance to human resources to a product development expert. So yeah, we're working on that, and Zen's the guy.
So I approach entrepreneurship in two ways. One is what we call entrepreneurship. So large companies, let's build new products so that the company can continue to innovate. And then second is taking products outside the organization, building new products outside the organization, both ways. In academia, we train our students. One is collaborate, build partnerships with industry. And a very interesting question came up, which was we teach business analytics to our students, and in this space, technology is changing very quickly. The traditional model has been that academia teaches the academic frameworks, and then we send our students to industry and we say, well, here they are, now you teach them the application. With technology changing so quickly, disruptions happening so quickly, we don't have time for that. So we put together a panel of academicians and industry folks to be able to figure out how should we change that model with the paradigm shift. Just last point, we're running out of time, I know, is that we also have our students work on capstone projects. So these are projects in which teams of 3 to 5 students work together with a real life client with real life data to be able to solve their problem. So that's training them for entrepreneurship as well.
Again, I'm not the expert in it, so I'll probably defer to John. I'm not an expert in getting capital, but I think what I would say is, at least from our business, what we are seeing is there is a slowdown and cutting in funding, right? So when I go back to my customers, it's not that the customer is saying, hey, I'm not going to do a program, okay? What they're saying is, hey, if I was going to do a big transformation, I'm going to cut it in scale. I'm probably going to elongate it to, instead of say 6 or 9 months, I'm going to do 12, 18 months, right? So again, I'm not sure how it translates into entrepreneurship. That's probably John's better place, but that's how I see it happening in our side of the house.
Can I add something? So I think hard times are the best times for entrepreneurs to start a company. If you look at history, Cisco was started in a downturn. Google was started in a downturn. When there's a downturn, first of all, VCs don't fund stupid ideas, okay? So there's focus. You get more of their attention. Second of all, you can find the best employees, because Facebook just laid off 11,000 great people, okay? And Google and Twitter, right? So many more talented people will be available, and some of those from Silicon Valley, Navneet, will be moving down here because they can't afford those mortgage payments anymore, for the $2 million homes they bought, on a starter's job. So I think 2023 for entrepreneurs, will be a great time. Depending on the deeper the recession, the better the time it will be for them.
Start a U-Haul for Facebook employees. Yeah, Rohit.
I wanted to jump on that bandwagon. I think I agree with you. I think the other piece that we're missing is that kid, the entrepreneur. If they're still passionate in 2023, I want to jump on his or her bandwagon, because passion is what drives industry. Passion is what drives research. And we cannot do anything without that. So let's see what happens this year.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm going to answer it with government and business. So the interesting thing is VC in particular is less than 1% of all investment worldwide across all classes. It's tiny. This is day one. Even the 50, 60 years, these big companies we think about in terms of VC we're in kindergarten still. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of growth. The one thing I'll tell you that Sunstone Management has been working on, and I've been working on this since I was an economic development director in Long Beach, is working with the state and federal government to open up more capital to startups and startup founders. There's actually billions of dollars a year coming through the Small Business Administration, Department of Commerce, that goes into traditional brick and mortar retail for traditional revolving loan programs. And we administer those. We want more of that. But we also want what California is doing right now with the state small business credit initiative, is creating a venture capital fund for underrepresented and underinvested entrepreneurs in communities and for emerging managers of funds. So I would say this, 1% of all investment across all classes is in VC, and that's going to grow. And if over our lifetime that only grows to 2 or 3%, it is such a huge, huge opportunity. But we need partly to get government involved so that, for instance, in the state of California, our publicly backed venture capital fund, which they're right now tagging at $200 million, that actually allows for the taxpayers here to take an equity position in the fund, not the individual company, but the fund overall, and also then enjoy, the taxpayers should get some carried interest in their success. So we're pushing this, and Sunstone is leading the way for the state of California and also for the federal government.
So I have a quick poll. Do you guys want beer, wine, whiskey, or should we let Manisha ask a question? Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Gunjan. Thank you, Vandana. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, John. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you all for waiting and joining, and please help support TiE. We need to become #1 next year. Thank you.
I would like to call upon Ajad Work, one of our sponsors, straddling firm, Anshuman Sinha, sponsor Startup Steroid, and Shankar Ram, to give a token of appreciation to all of our speakers.